Well, hello, everybody. I'm Ed Parco, and this is Amy T. Meyer, and we are the hosts. It seems like forever since I've run that video.
It does. It has been quite a minute.
Yeah,
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm excited to bring in our guest today. So today it is a more of a Navy day. So we have Rob with us, and he's going to tell us all about himself. And we always start off with what made you choose the service you chose.
He
Okay.
said Navy, so why else would there be? There is no other reason besides Navy's just the way to go. I'm a
Yeah, I
corpsman.
think it's because I'm a right-minded person. That's why I made that
Exactly.
decision. I sense that only one of the two hosts is Navy.
No, actually, Amy actually gave up Army and joined the Navy Reserves.
Excellent choice.
So she made a mistake and she fixed it later.
I don't know. A lot of people don't necessarily consider the Seabees as a part of the Navy, but
Really?
Well, they're a very cool part. Seabees.
Yeah. I think their
fight
checks
too.
still come from like the Department of the Navy. I'm not.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
like the Mud Dogs.
Anywho, I feel like
and back in the day, they used to wear like real dungarees and stuff, and only like Navy people, unfortunately, had to wear that stupid outfit. So.
Well, it was denim, just like I'm wearing right now, and I'm a big fan of that. Although the bell bottoms were kind of silly back in the '80s. It wasn't.
Yeah,
really
well, you had to
fashion
cover those
anymore.
shoes somehow,
The Boondockers, classics. So
but you're not only Navy, but you were a SEAL.
That's right. Yeah. Navy. I'm a spook SEAL or a nerd thug. So I joined the Navy to become a SEAL. That's why I went that direction in the first place. I thought that I went to all the recruiters as a kid who had no real direction in life, and I tried to do college and majored in drinking and learned that wasn't the path for me at that time in my life. It was many moons ago. So I went to the recruiters and said, "Who's got the toughest commandos?" That's the only criterion that 18 or 19-year-old idiot had in his brain was just be the toughest commander, whatever it was. Never even heard of a SEAL. But the Navy, the Army, and the Marines all said, I guess that's probably the Navy with the Navy SEALs. It was a brand new concept to a lot of them back then in '85. And so I said, cool, I'll be a Navy SEAL. But I can still be a linguist, right? Because I had this high language aptitude for the DLAB, Defense Language Aptitude Battery. And so the Navy was saying, we really want you to be a linguist. I said, well, I'll be a linguist as long as I can be a SEAL. They said, yes, sign here. So I learned that recruiters don't always tell the whole truth. When I got to boot camp,
that's not the case. They always tell the truth.
someone said one time. So I got to boot camp. They had the BUD screening, the screening for who's going to be a SEAL, who's going to test to be a SEAL. And I was first in line. They said, not you. You have a contract to be a NSA guy for NSA for the linguists. And I said, there's got to be some mistake because my recruiter said, and that was, famous last words. So I ended up becoming an NSA guy, counter-Soviet. I had chosen Russian language. I was very good at it, still am. And I did my best with it for about 10 years, but I kept striving to get to BUDS, to go to the SEAL teams. And in the end, by the time I was so long in the tooth, almost 10 years in, I went to the detailer, the Navy guy who sends different MOSs or ratings to different assignments. I said, Cliff, because this was a guy that I'd worked with 10 years earlier as a young idiot. I said, I'm going to be a SEAL someday. He's like, yeah, whatever, you crazy ass. We're going to, this is the best gig in the Navy. Why would you not do this NSA thing? I said, doesn't matter. I'm going to be a SEAL. So by that time, 10 years later, he is the detailer. And I said, remember what I said? I'm going to be a SEAL. He's like, go on, you crazy son of a bitch. Try. Give it a whirl. We'll get you back anyway when you fail. And I went to BUDS, and the rest is history.
Nice.
I think we upset Amy. She's so quiet back there. So
Whatever. I'm fine.
All right. So you were in the time I was in when you joined and everything. So it was a totally different Navy back then, just like you would say, or further on, than today.
Pre-tail hook.
All right. So you became a SEAL, and how long were you a SEAL?
Well, the first 10 years was NSA. The second 10 years was SEAL.
Right. Okay. So the second, 10. So you were in for 20 years total.
20 years, exactly half and half.
where did you go anywhere special with the SEALs? Or where were you stationed? I mean, were you stationed out in Coronado or somewhere else?
I was actually all the way west, as far as West Coast can go in Hawaii. So on the numbered teams, we have odd numbers on the West Coast, even on the East. I was SDV Team 1, or SEAL Delivery Vehicle Team 1, which is the mini submarines that we learn to drive and then drive places and then do our operations and then sneak back. It's a really great submersible. At the time, in the 80s, it wasn't sexy. In the 80s, it was people didn't want to go to it. Guys are like, no, don't take me to SDV. But I wanted to go back to Hawaii, where I'd been stationed before as an NSA guy. I used to be an air crewman in that community. So I said, I'll take SDV Team 1 in Hawaii. They said, it's yours. Nobody else wants it. So I went to SDV school, airborne school, and then off to Hawaii. And then did 7 years there, counterterrorism, special reconnaissance primarily. My specialty is sneak and peek. And then my Twilight tour was where we re-merged the two communities. I was already an intelligence officer, analyst, or operator, collector, and then I became a tactical operator. And the agency, DTRA, Defense Threat Reduction Agency, has the mission of doing unusual defense for the nation, primarily chem bio, but they also do red teaming. So I became an official red team guy because I had the intelligence brain and the tactical operations brain, put them all together as a terrorist cell, and I attacked U.S. bases as a red teamer.
So where are you stationed now? Where are you at now?
I'm in Northern Virginia.
Okay, I just didn't know if you went back to Hawaii. That's what I was at.
I'm back and forth all the time. I left Hawaii almost 3 years ago after 3 years there, and I was here for a few years before that, and back in Hawaii for 10 years. So I consider myself a dual citizen, DC and Hawaii.
It's still the United States, but okay. As my wife tells me, because she grew up there, that in it's
Hawaii.
Still Oahu.
Okay, very cool. Yes, it's my other life. I'm kind of Kama'aina. Basically kind of local because of my native. I was a naturalized citizen of Hawaii by being there a lot.
Looking back on your time in the Navy, anything you'd change?
There's things I thought I would change, and the answer today is no. One great example, is that I was enlisted, and I promoted very, very poorly. Did well for the first few years after I got the sketchy stuff out of my life, out of my system, behaving in certain ways that are kind of illegal. A lot of drunken incidents, back to the whole failing out of college thing. And when I finally got clean and sober and stopped killing myself with booze, I began to promote pretty well, up to the point I got to BUDS I became a first class or a staff sergeant, E6 in BUDS. And then stayed that for the rest of my career, because as anyone who knows the Navy understands, there are certain categories that certain boxes need to be checked in enlisted ranks, and to become a chief, which is essential to become in the senior upper ranks within the enlisted folks, which is where they change uniforms and everything, become a khaki wearer, like the khaki officer uniforms. But to get to chief, which is a very important step in an enlisted career, you have to go through LPO before you get to Chief Petty Officer or CPO. LPO, Leading Petty Officer, is what I was just about ready to start doing in the spook community as an NSA asset with all my linguist friends in NSA and Fort Meade. And I jumped horses in midstream. I became a completely new guy in a very challenging community, the SEAL teams. And so as a new guy at 10 years in the Navy, I still had years to go before I could ripen as a SEAL to become the LPO, leading petty officer of a platoon, and then rise to CPO. So although I tested really well through those last 10 years, I kept going for chief. I didn't understand the culture behind it, and now I do, looking back, and I've been talked to by wiser old mentors. But though I never had a chance to get chief, and there was no promotion past that. But I don't regret a minute of it. The experiences that I gained have been worth multiple PhDs. In my experience, worth multiple captains, crows or colonel crows. I've had opportunities to work in the 15 or 16 years since my retirement that are just fantastic to think about. Impossible to imagine having been on these missions and these other operations and contract work that I've done. Being a red teamer, again, merging those two communities made me a red teamer in the Navy. Then when I took off the uniform, I kept red teaming, and I've since established my consultancy, Impact Actual, which is about primarily personal development for our clients, whole person development. But I have also never stopped doing red teams. So I'll work for a big financial outfit with $100 billion. I did the Super Bowl and the World Cup in Russia, attacking all these interests with red teaming. I didn't specify that, but we're not actually killing anybody in red teaming. In red teaming, we're assuming the identity of an adversary, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the mafia, hackers. We assume the identity and the capabilities of that group. We understand their agenda, and we understand their aversions. Like some organizations, believe it or not, some terrorists have a character they don't want to kill kids. So whatever their real model of who they are is, we assume that, go against the target, the financial organization. They want to protect their money because that's what their business is. A school wants to protect the children. Brad Pitt wants to protect his nose. I'll go after whatever the vulnerability is with the capabilities of the adversary network or entity that I'm simulating, and find really horrible things that can be done based on existing vulnerabilities. So the red teaming is something that's been a big part of my life ever since I merged those two communities. So it was a really great experience. And I look back and think, man, everything was exactly like it was supposed to be. Not like I would have hoped for at the beginning of the 20 years, but it all worked out exactly like there was a higher plan.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you I'm sorry, Amy, I'll shut up after this and you can talk. I was going to ask you to explain red team, that because a lot of people don't understand. Yeah. So a lot of people who, we don't only listen, military people, but other people watch the show and they don't understand all of our terminology. So thanks for explaining that. Yeah. Amy, go ahead. Okay.
So my question is, what would you say to somebody who was in that same situation? Like, somebody who's in the Navy who had an opportunity and switch shifts halfway through their service that might be feeling frustrated or concerned. What advice would you have for them?
Very few people have that exact transition, and almost nobody. I was the only spook SEAL in the Navy. Literally, this was before, to go back real quick and retrace the ratings, which is the same for the Air Force, Army, and Marines as the MOS, the military occupational specialty. Our ratings in the Navy, as a linguist, I was a CTI. For Army, that's 98 Golf, an interpreter that works for NSA and does projects around the world. In the Navy, we didn't have a rating or an MOS as a SEAL. In the Army, 18 series is the MOS for enlisted SF cats. So an 18 Foxtrot is an intel guy, 18 Delta is a medic. Those are special forces medic or intel guy, for example. In the Navy, we had the rating, the MOS, and then a sub-warfare specialty, it's called, like being a surface warfare qualified or air crew qualified, like I became. It was just special warfare qualification. Well, now that changed soon after I had retired. It became SO, another rating. So in other words, like a 19 or an 18 series, the SO special operations path is now available to guys to be an SO3, a petty officer third class SEAL, or an SOC, a special operations chief, for example. So it didn't exist when I went through it back in the 80s and 90s. I did that transition, and that wasn't the kind of animal that existed to be a half spook, half SEAL. In fact, I got a waiver to keep my rating and not convert to HM or other corpsman, for example. HM is a corpsman, or a Holtec is an HT. It wasn't a source rating. So my NEC, Naval Enlisted Code of a CTI, was not permitted to be a SEAL. With that warfare, it had to be a CTI SEAL in parent. So because I couldn't do that, I would have to convert to HM for corpsman, HT for Holtec, or boiler tech for BT. And I said, I don't want to change. Can I do a waiver? Went to my career counselor. She's like, yeah, sure. They submitted a waiver up to BUPERS or Bureau of Personnel. And they said, sure, fine. This crazy son of a bitch can be a CT and a SEAL. And that's what I ended up being. So it's a long, circuitous answer or setup for the answer. My strongest recommendation for somebody who's done something that's either really stupid, like my early years, one captain, when he was masting me, or Article 15, basically, said, I wish I could prosecute you for criminal stupidity. I definitely went out of my way to test some limits on car crashes and drunken public kind of stuff. Woke up here's a little fun anecdote for those who are thinking maybe it's good to be an alcoholic. I woke up on a bathroom in Daytona in a bar during bike week. I don't recommend that. I still had all my limbs and I didn't lose any blood that day, but that's not a good place to wake up. So because I was so insane and doing criminal behavior in my insanity in my early Navy days, again, it delayed my advancement through the first half of my career, and the first half of my career delayed advancement for the second half. I made criminal stupid choices and then career choices. Either one of them can set you back on the path you want to promote. I would like to be a Master Chief one day. I'll never have that unless they give me an honorary. You guys know that R. Lee Ermey, the gunny from Full Metal Jacket, the legendary R. Lee Ermey, was never actually a gunny. He's been called the gunny for his whole life because they made him a gunnery sergeant for Full Metal Jacket when he was an advisor, and they said, this guy's even better than our actor. Let's put him in as the gunny to train these boots. And after that, he made such a popular image for the Marine Corps, although he died in the movie. So that's spoiler alert for anybody who's never seen the movie. The Marine Corps said, you know what, dude, you're a friggin' gunny, because he was a staff sergeant before that. He had got out of the Army, out of the Marine Corps as a staff sergeant. So we make these choices, and that's what I teach people today. And whole person development is you make choices, accept the consequences. Always accept, never settle. In other words, I can't change the fact that I'm 5'10.5". Probably shorter now because I'm not a young man. I can't change the fact that I never crossed the 6 foot line. That's something I need to accept. If I fight it, if I resist it, I'm being an idiot. I'm holding myself back from peace of mind and just saying, hey, today is cool. Let's be cool. But I can change my weight. If I'm not happy with that, I'm responsible. That's what the never settle part. So for people making these career choices, going in directions are like, wow, that had unexpected consequences, I say, accept it, dude. Whatever's real is real. And wherever you are, accept the reality, but don't never settle for what you can change. If you don't like the fact you're being have stunted your promotion opportunities, shift again. Go back to when you get on a fast track, or shift to a better track, or just blow them out of the water with your test results on whatever you're trying to promote through. It's about accountability. Own your path.
And as bad as you did back then, you did pretty well advancing past that, because I'm going to tell you, during that period of time in the 80, that 10 year you talked about, it was really hard to get advanced in the Navy because people had to get out and people weren't leaving. Right. They wanted to stay in. And I know as a corpsman, to get to E4, it took me forever, where my son right now, he's been in 2 years in the Army as airborne and a medic, and he's already there and he's working on his E5, and he's, it's like, and it's so different than when we were in, and the Army is so different than the Navy and everything. And each service, no matter how you pick, just enjoy what you're doing and then focus what's your plan for your life. Because that might be a short period of time, or he might get hurt tomorrow and he's out, even though he has a plan for the rest of his life, being, retiring from the Army. So you need to plan for your future. That's
exactly it. Right. That goes right back to always accept, never settle. Where he is, you and I were cold warriors. And part of the reason that we didn't have many prospects in the 80s and 90s is because the Cold War fizzled out. And suddenly we didn't need a 600-ship Navy. Suddenly we didn't need all these people staffing. In fact, I was given the opportunity to move on. We had a thing called Turbo Serbo back in 90, I think at the time. But when the Navy, when the Soviet Union collapsed, there goes our Dragon. The Dragon just died in its cave, and all of a sudden we have 1,000 Serpents rising in its place. That's one of the analogies that our counterterrorism world has been talking about. 1,000 Serpents rose in the place of the big Dragon. But as soon as the Russian Dragon was slain, we thought, talk about presuppositions, talk about never count your chickens till they're hatched, because now we have a nice, proper Russian threat again. And I'm actually using my Russian to support some government projects here and there. It's like a flashback 35 years, and I'm right back in demand for that particular skill set. But when the bloated war of the Cold War dropped and fizzled, they didn't need all those people or all those assets anymore. And it was like, that was jamming up the works because people had to get out. They made Turbo Serbo was an option to go right back to Defense Language Institute, DLI, in Monterey, and do a 1 or 2 month course for Russian linguists to learn Serbo-Croatian, because guess what? We have a problem over there. It's opportunities, and they say fortune favors the prepared. I've got a quote up here from Jefferson that says, I'm a firm believer in luck, and I find that the harder I work, the more I have of it. That's what I would encourage your listeners, your viewers to do, is focus on preparing yourself for anything rather than trying to prepare for everything. One's exhausting. One's going to make you better off than you ever were. no matter what the outcome or the environmental circumstances.
Amy, do you have anything before I ask my question? So,
no, you ask your question.
All right. So what would you tell your younger self as you were joining? Because a lot of people have those. So a lot of people have demons before they go into the military. And then sometimes in the military, it makes it worse and they get out and they have them. You had them and then you overcame them. What would you tell your younger self now?
Wow, that's a strong question. A heavy response. It's good. It's good. Not bad.
Well, no, you set me up for that question. So sorry. I do radio and podcasting, and the way you said it, you could just see how you were like, okay, if I wouldn't have done this, if I wouldn't, so what would you tell that person?
Absolutely.
You know, not that you would listen, right? Because we don't always listen, right, at that time. Right.
No, I was very good at not listening to good advice. I had to learn every lesson the hard way. You know what good judgment is? Good judgment is a result of experience. You know what experience is? Experience is a result of bad judgment. Ergo, bad judgment equals good judgment if you consider the middleman of processing and learning from experience. If you learn, I didn't always choose that. None of us do. Sometimes you have to listen. I have to get the message several times over. So in my case, I took demons into the Navy. I took demons into my alcoholism. I had demons from childhood. And this is something, that's why I say it's heavy. And I'm really glad you're asking about it because I like to go deep on stuff. I have a podcast too called Beyond Your Limits with Rob DuBois. And we dive deep. I had Iris Almerio on recently. She's a big TV star that's in everything from Sex and the City to the current Walking Dead. And we talked about Me Too. We went there, got to have these hard conversations because she's a gorgeous actress dealing with the casting couch issues with the producers. And she got right in one guy's face and said, "That's not going to work, you son of a bitch." And I'll tell everybody what you just ultimatum me. Either I get laid by you, chick, or you're not getting this gig. And she says, "Let's go. Let's make this obvious." So in this case, PTSD, let's put it on the table. PTSD is a thing. Post-traumatic stress is a real thing. We hear about it. It's almost pop culture, almost like, yay, PTSD. Let's talk about how much we love our veterans and thank you for your service and all this stuff. I'm not discounting or dismissing or minimizing any of that. I appreciate it. However, PTSD is not a veteran's condition. It's a human condition. And I've learned through my own PTS therapy, counseling, treatment with the military programs for combat veterans, SEALs and Green Berets and infantry and all these folks that have been in the mess for these past 20 years. And I said, I began to understand more about myself and what my treatment provider said is, dude, a lot of people go into the combat arms because they have unresolved trauma from earlier. And that trauma is looking for a place for drama. The trauma loves the chaos. The trauma loves the danger. So I learned that the stuff I dealt with as a little boy, stuff that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, it led to choices through my young adulthood and my career and my relationships. So if I look back and talk to me younger, I'd say, dude, there's a lot you don't understand about yourself. And I'll say this to every young person listening, and some who aren't so chronologically young, but are open to growth at whatever age. There's a lot you don't understand about yourself. There's a lot you don't understand about what drives you to think what you do and drives you to do what you do. I call it self-limiting beliefs and behaviors with Impact. My company's Impact Actual. And we talk about self-limiting beliefs and behaviors. I want people to go back and address the fact that, hey, if you're an asshole, if you're one of these assholes around the office place, the guy's like always the grumpy old prick, there is something probably behind that. There's some kind of a self-defense, a barrier. Put up the armor of behavior. So I would tell myself, be gentle with yourself, accept the stuff that seems mixed up, accept the stuff that seems crazy, accept the insecurities, address them, deal with them, work on being a whole person. And then anything you go after, being a SEAL, being a florist, being an architect, will be better because you'll be healthier and happier doing it.
Very good advice.
Yep, I think so. But the thing about PTSD is during our generation, when I was in and stuff, when you got out, you never talked about it. It's that thing you didn't talk about because it affected you for the rest of your life. Like if you went to get a job, you couldn't talk about it, so you couldn't deal with it, right? And so you never dealt with it. and you had these issues. I know for a fact to this day, my uncle still has issues that you can't come up behind him and scare him. And he's, he's old, and you're not his age. But anyway, next story.
No,
I'm just saying,
but
jump.
scaring.
Yeah, right.
The
You can't do that.
Hyper-alertness, hyper-vigilance is a very heavy burden.
Yeah.
It's
and
exhausting.
You wouldn't know that because he was in the Air Force. So you're like, what the heck? Anyway.
Right. And then there's presuppositions too. We put these expectations on people. Oh, Marine, I know what he is. Oh, a SEAL, I know what he is. Oh, Mortarman from the Army, I know what he is. No, you don't. Yeah. What's the rating of this show? Are we talking R for dirty words?
We don't care. We put on not for children.
Well, perfect. I will say you don't have a fucking clue who that person is. You don't have a fucking clue who.
If you're worried about cussing, that's okay. Amy cusses all the time. It's so bad.
Fuck yes. I'm only offended by curse words. But we don't know. You don't know. You, the viewer, you don't know who the person is you're talking to. We have these assumptions based on what we see, the superficial, but we make these assumptions, and those are almost always wrong. Guaranteed to be wrong to 4 degrees or maybe 40% or maybe 85% wrong based on judging a book by its cover. Air Force, I got it. One of my business partners, Patrick Mullins, is now pursuing plant-based treatments for PTSD, and he's a fighter pilot. He's a combat fighter pilot from the Air Force. Now our director of sales for Impact Actual. Patrick is a guy, staunch, conservative gentleman in every way, an average, traditional, durable, tough, brawny guy, but he's got broken pieces inside. I've got broken pieces inside. And oftentimes, I can tell you, as a badass, as a man's man, a lot of men, especially, all people will put up that front, that bravado, the armor of being an asshole. But men especially will shield their feelings, which are so untouchable, so unmanageable, because we have, in many cases, not been taught to deal with it. We have been forbidden, as you said, forbidden from talking about it by the culture and also by pragmatism. Because in the teams, my first parachute landing at airborne school in, God bless, Fort Benning, Georgia, where I got extra tours because of my performance. Long story there, but my first landing, I'm lying in on my little round parachute. Didn't do it very well. You can't get any more inexperienced than being the first jump at airborne school. Hit the ground like this. My right foot went like this, pop, and I heard it and I felt it and I said, "Oh hell!" as my body hit the ground. But I knew, because I'd already been there for an extra week, like I said, extra innings. I got disciplined for. I was the sacrificial goat. So all of us young SEAL graduates, BUDS graduates, got to airborne school, and we were breaking the rules a little bit, believe it or not. So we were staying off in town, which we were forbidden from doing. No airborne students can stay off in town. So we got a suite, and we had a good time. And they did a bed check, and there was 10 of us. But I was the senior guy. Again, I was the E6 coming out of BUDS. And so we got called in the next morning, and we got bed checked around the barracks by the black hats, the Army trainers. One guy really had a hard on for us, and he hated the SEALs, or the SEAL candidates. We weren't SEALs yet because we hadn't gone through probation, but we'd gone through SEAL training, BUDS. And I got a call. Hey, DuBois, come up to the office. Took me 4 hours of song and dance to explain that away. I lied a lot, let's be honest. I'll be honest about lying. So I lied to justify staying in the course. But nobody else got called up. Because, again, just make an example of the senior guy, then it'll scare all the SEALs back into the barracks. It didn't. They just kept staying in the suite. And the Army was like, screw it, we can't get all of them. It's just too much hassle. And we'll be conflict between the Army and the Navy to ditch 10 SEALs from Army training. Anyway, I finally talked my way back into the course, but by the time I got done going up the chain to the E9 saying, here's why I was not in my bed last night, song and dance stuff, but make a story and stick to it. He's like, that makes sense. You've got a good argument. I'm going to return you to training. I said, cool. And he said, however, since you've missed 4 hours of training, you're going back a week. So I went from ground week all the way through rolling in sawdust in Fort Benning, Georgia in August in winter weight camis, which was what I was issued, back to start. And I already didn't like airborne school by the time. I didn't like anything I was doing there, except I liked not getting kicked out because I wouldn't go back to my team in shame. So I've had extra innings in airborne school, rolled in the sawdust twice as much as anybody else. Finally get to jump week, snap my ankle. It wasn't a shattering fracture. It was a bad sprain. I heard it and felt it go pop. I wasn't going to let them know. I hopped up on it, put my weight on it just to see if it would collapse. If it was structurally compromised, I'd just be down again. So I gently put my feet, it was like shooting pain, terrible pain. Cool, I can lie about that. Grabbed my chute, ran back to the truck, said, thank you, may I have another. And I did that throughout my entire career, lying about injuries. Again, like the PTS stuff, like the emotional mental stuff, I'm now dealing with that. I have a disc cut out of my spine through here, bad landing, hip surgery, knee surgery, shoulder repair, everything put back together in the past few years, only because I finally dealt with all the breaking, all the damage that I lied about. And I don't recommend that. And hopefully it's not necessary in today's military to lie about all the injuries. But I would have been down for any one of them. And a SEAL doesn't spend all those years getting ready for the game only to get down for a boo-boo. So we lie about our boo-boos, and it really compounds in later life. I'm 56 tomorrow, and it compounds. I promise you, all the young people.
Yeah. Happy birthday early.
Thank you.
All right, let's get back to all of us since we'd like to keep it around 30 minutes. All right, so another thing about not telling about your injuries is when you get out to get the money for, to get that kind of stuff, because as you get older, it really messes with you what you did in the military, and you should get the disability for that.
That's exactly what I was counseled, and I thank God I heeded that counsel about a year from retirement, because again, to all those folks who are in the service and thinking about getting out, make sure you document every boo-boo. This isn't, what do they call it, sick, lame, and lazy. This isn't being a malingerer, to use Navy terms. I'm not talking about being a malingerer and skipping responsibilities and avoiding duty. There's enough of those turds out there doing that. I'm talking about own everything. It's a full taking stock, assets and liabilities. Am I good at this? Yes. Am I broken here? Yes. Own it. Be completely honest, because when you do age out after having 100 serious injuries like I experienced, I mean, I tore my shoulder in the last. I did a bad jiu-jitsu throw in the last couple of months of my career, tore the shit out of my shoulder, and then years later it had to get put back together. The doc actually sliced off my bicep and ran down like a curtain, and then tied it back up and sewed it on. I mean, we're talking major reconstruction, which was documented. Because it was documented, I was able to get back in and get care from the service. But if I just kept lying about all my boo-boos, I would have not had the care to begin with. And when I thought about like the payment, disability payments, one of the most important things to keep in mind is that, like you said, it doesn't seem like there's any reason to give me compensation in year one or even month one after retirement. But in year 5 and 10 and 15 after retirement, all that compounding I've described starts weighing a person down. And yes, it is important to be compensated for the lack of, there's things I can't do because of all the compounding. So it is important to just, again, be honest, be completely accountable on not claiming stuff that's not true, but claiming everything that is true.
I just can't believe, Amy, we got a Navy SEAL to say boo-boo on.
I know, over and over.
Yeah. Boo-boo and poo-poo and pee-pee. I can say all the words because I got nothing left to prove. Young men are out there trying to prove what badasses they are. I know it. So I can have
you already did it.
Be cool.
You already did it. So, yeah. Anything else, Amy, before we go?
Okay. So one quick question.
And that's, I'm not saying we got to go. I just want to make sure we get everything in here. All right.
Usually we ask, what do you use today that you learned in the military, but you've already shared a ton. So
Motrin.
The bigger question
Motrin.
is,
I learned Motrin in the Navy.
What did you leave when you retired that you're like, that is left in the military? So Ed always says time. He left the 24-hour clock.
Yeah.
Oh, what I left behind is posturing. Again, nothing to prove. I think that I should be dead. I can't count. I can't tell you how many times I should have been dead, but I should have been dead. And my friends are dead. And my friends are blind. And my friends are on prosthetic limbs. And my friends are waking up screaming at night. The reason I look like this is because for the past 10 days, I've actually had a very serious bout of PTS stuff going on. I have been having nightmares. I have been, and this is rare. I'm not one of those guys that has to endure it all the time. But be fucking honest. Don't posture up. Don't be afraid to talk. I'll share this with you guys real quick. This is my book, Powerful Peace, A Navy SEAL's Lessons on Peace from a Lifetime at War. And in this book, I open it before you get to the content, the chapters and everything. There's a letter in here I call an open letter to veterans and recruits. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just so you know, it's here. Folks can check out Powerful Peace, A Navy SEAL's Lessons on Peace from a Lifetime at War. It's not about killing bin Laden. Other guys wrote
Rob,
that.
Before you, can we get a signed copy of that, Amy and I?
Love to. Yeah, just give me just get us an address.
We'll email you our addresses. Yeah.
Perfect.
Don't worry, we'll buy one for somebody else, but we want a signed copy from you. All right.
So the personal letter is all about talking about it. The stuff that makes you a warrior is injurious. I talk about body, mind, heart, and soul. And I talk about veterans and recruits because in that letter, that open letter, before you get to the contents about how we help little girls not get killed so much, I talk about being among Arab SEALs watching. As I was teaching them how to kill terrorists, we watched terrorists knock down the towers live at their base in the Middle East. I was in the Gulf teaching Arab SEALs, again, like countless other events of training foreign special operators. And we all sat and watched the towers. One was burning when we all got to the TV lounge, and the other was hit while we were sitting there all together. Profound, surreal experiences that have taught me about hate and harm and loss. And what I want people to do is just be fucking honest. It hurts to become someone who can hurt other people. It's injurious to the body, the mind, the heart, and the soul. There are scars. There's scarring happening. I tell the recruits, it's coming. Get ready for it. You'll be scarred. Don't shy away from growth opportunities. There's always, in every growth is pain. In every growth opportunity, pain comes with it in some way, whether it's growing pains for a child or learning hard lessons in life. In every growth opportunity, always accept, never settle. Accept that it's going to hurt, accept you're going to learn from it if you apply the lessons right. And so talking about it, I repeat that in that letter, talk about it. Find a trusted counselor, find a trusted friend, and talk about it. Get the ideas out. I have no pretense anymore. Of course, I'm a business owner. I have Impact Actual. We have a thriving coaching line that I have to be able to convey a certain image to the world. I have to be professional, I have to be well-spoken, but I'm not going to be full of shit anymore. I'm not going to be a glossy trifold of a human being. Yeah, I wear suits and ties sometimes, but it's only for a genuine, authentic expression of professionalism as compared to, like, con men are always looking glossy. Con man means confidence, man. It means gains your confidence so he can rear end you, he can cheat you, can steal from you. Not a con. We have to be as real as possible because the world today in this country are really torn up, and it comes from a lot of inauthenticity, people being fake for their own advantage. Let's get together and all be real and say, this is what I got, what do you got? And work together to make society better.
There we go. All right. So I'm going to say this one last time. Anything else you want to add? Because after that, Rob, I think you're pretty good right there.
Right.
That was a great end to this. But if you want to add anything else.
The message. That's the message.
Well, I think the biggest thing that, we find all the time is most vets do not want to ask for help. They think it's a weakness.
Exactly.
And we always say, when you're in the field and you're under fire, you ask for air support. What's the difference?
It's teams. We say teams and shit. SEAL teams. We're team guys. In the community that understands what SEALs are, in the military community, if you say team guys, it doesn't mean the NFL. It doesn't mean a badminton team. It means the Navy SEALs, or in certain exceptions, the SF Cats. The Green Berets are also team guys. But the general euphemism of team guys means Navy SEAls. Team is in the name. But we lose sight of that when it's time to ask for help. I'll say, throw me a mag, but I won't say, I'm hurting.
Right. All right. Rob, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the honor of being here.
No,
and I hope
pleasure.
That our conversation can help somebody.
I'm sure it will. I mean, that's the whole purpose of doing this. We see so many silos in the, through everything we run into where people don't talk to other people. We see
Yep.
nonprofits who won't work with another nonprofit because they have a little shadow that just goes over the edge just enough. We all need to stop that. We need to all get along and work with each other. And that's why we're doing this show. We're trying to make sure we can connect people so they can get connected. And we really appreciate the information that you provided today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Have a good day, guys.
You too. Don't go anywhere yet. All right, everybody else, again, like we say, if you like what we do here, just follow us. And Amy, thank you for being on the show today.